welcome everybody. Happy Ayamiha. If you're a Baha'i, you know what that means. And if you're a friend of the faith or you've never heard of that before, maybe you're a new Baha'i. That simply means this is our time of gift giving. And it's 4 or 5 days at the end of February, depending upon whether or not it's a leap year. And so it's a real joyful, happy time for us to be able to give gifts. And we've been doing a lot of Zooming around since we can't do in-person visits for many of us. So it's a time for gift giving and sharing and being together. And thank you for taking the time out to come here tonight to be with us. We're really delighted to have all of you here. I'm Cheryl Lynn Stevens. I'm the host or facilitator for this series. It's a Bahá'í-inspired series called Racial Healing, Racial Justice. And this was started by the Baha'is in Salisbury and Wacomico County, Maryland, of which I am currently a member. And the purpose of this series is to bring together, it's a collaborative space, and the purpose of it is to bring people together in devotion, in discussion, and reflection, and hopefully action as a result on the most vital and challenging issue in America. And that issue is racism. This is not a new topic for Baha'is. It's been one that we've pursued for a very, very, very long time. And events in the past year have certainly given it renewed emphasis for all of us in this country. But what we like to think brings us together here is that we all have a common commitment to advancing, carrying forward an ever-advancing civilization that is both materially and spiritually rich. And that's something that absolutely just can't happen. Although it's very attainable and it's very lofty, but it's not possible until we've eliminated racism. As long as there's racism, there will be no justice, there will be no real peace, and there will be no true prosperity for humanity. And that's something I think everyone wants to have. Our speaker tonight is Sue St. Clair, and I'll go into more detailed introduction to Sue later, but her topic is quite fitting. She's got an incredible presentation put together for us on this very topic, and why African Americans, people of African descent, are so important to the spiritual well-being of humanity, and why eliminating dealing with this racism issue is so vital to us in ways we may not have really conceived of initially. So Sue, if you'd like to wave, and we can get a spotlight on Sue so everyone can see you there. Hi, Sue. Thank you for coming, taking time out for us and putting this together for us. We really appreciate it. So let me tell you how we're going to work tonight, and then we'll get going. Jemiah Green has a prayer for us, and we'll close out the devotional portion with Milton Conway also providing a prayer for us. Then we'll come back. I'll fully introduce Sue and tell you all the tea about her. And then she'll share her presentation and her thoughts with us, and then we'll have open discussion and comments and so on. So with that,
at the gate of the garden, some stand and look within, but do not care to enter. Others step inside, behold its beauty, but do not penetrate far. Still others encircle this garden in inhaling the fragrance of the flowers, and having enjoyed its full beauty, pass out again by the same gate. But there are always some who enter, and becoming intoxicated by the splendor of what they be, remain for life out in the garden. Remain for life to tend the
Oh God, make me a hollow reed, from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others. Oh God, oh my God, make me a hollow reed, from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others. Oh God, make me a hollow reed, from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others.
Thank you, Melton. And thank you, La Jamaya and Robbie and her guest, Hassan Bakar, for bringing these beautiful contributions to our devotional this evening. So, with that, I am very excited to introduce Sue St. Clair. Many of you know her, and many of you love her. Say, oh, Sue's coming? Oh, yes. I'll be there. Just on name alone. But let me tell you a little bit about Sue. This is what she shared with me about her background, and maybe some of her friends will find out some new things they didn't know before. So Sue is now partially retired. She worked for a number of years in home health care in various positions before pioneering to Liberia and West Africa, where she worked for USAID in the development of community primary health care programs for village health care workers in remote villages in Grand Geta County. After she returned to the United States, she completed her master's degree in nursing and international public health, during which time she was able to spend 3 months in Malawi, South Africa, doing an independent knowledge, attitudes and practices research project around village mental health. Based upon those findings, she was able to set up a community primary mental health worker program to present to the Ministry of Health before returning to the US. This was only able to be done with the trust and support of the village elders and the area medicine men. Since then, Sue has served in various positions in psychiatric mental health and currently is a part-time psychiatric nurse practitioner and a part-time body talk practitioner. Sue has 3 adult sons, whom she holds in the highest esteem, and 2 daughter-in-laws, whom she loves dearly. In addition, they've blessed her with 5 grandchildren. My goodness. Aren't you blessed? Wow, 5. So with that, let me turn it over to Sue. Um, and yeah, I'm just excited to hear everything you have to share. Sue?
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here with everyone. And a little nervous, but hopefully, mainly nervous because I'm going in a direction that I haven't seen someone go in yet, but I think needs to happen so that we can understand why we are called people of the eye. At least this is my understanding as to why that might be the case. I wanted to just read the initial introductory information that I had sent to Sherilyn, because that will set the stage for what we will be talking about going forward. So Baha'u'llah, Abdu'l-Baha said, once compared the colored people to the black pupil of the eye surrounded by the white. In this black pupil is seen the reflection of that which is before it, and through it the light of the spirit shineth forth. And this is Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of our Baha'i faith, who made that statement. One of our esteemed Black professors who presented at one of the ABS seminars on centering the pupil of the eye, he stated that the pupil of the eye metaphor is a deeply consequential, distinguishing feature of the transformative social and spiritual system laid out in Baha'u'llah's revelation. And he speaks, meaning Derek Smith, Dr. Derek Smith, speaks adamantly of the importance of centering Black life in the figurative body of humanity. Baha'u'llah came for the whole of mankind. And just as he has given a station to all those who follow him and states they are, quote, like unto leaven, which leaveneth the world of being, and constitute the animating force through which the arts and wonders of the world are made manifest. At the same time, he bestowed an additional special station on the Black Africans and people of African descent, calling them pupils of the eye. In order to practice the kind of resilience that the Universal House of Justice is calling us to, and just to pause for a second, the Universal House of Justice is our international governing body that's in Haifa, Israel. But what they're calling us to is, I believe we have to look a bit at the historic Black peoples of the world from which people of African descent have descended, and why there is a need to center Blacks in the figurative body of humanity in order to build a spiritualized world order. We all look at examples of resilience historically practiced by Blacks of the world. I'm sorry, we will look and how they incorporate the 5 internal senses of imagination, thought, comprehension, memory, and the common faculty, which is a bridge between those senses of the spirit and the 5 senses that we are normally used to thinking of, like vision and hearing and speech and touch and so on. We will understand a bit together the age-old genetic and spiritual learning developed over centuries and ages through periodic crises over millennials that has readied us to receive the station of pupil of the eye and to arise within that station to fulfill our current responsibility to be the light that shines in the darkness for all to see the path forward in building the world order of Baha'u'llah. So I'm going to go on and was there anything else that was going to happen, Sherilyn, or should I go forward now?
That's all yours.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to share screen and I need to do the optimize. Hopefully by my optimizing at this point, it won't interfere with your being able to see the writing. I do need that for later. So resilience in a time of historic portent. The reason why that title is there is because the Universal House of Justice sent a letter out to the Baha'is of America in July 22nd of 2020, in which they called what we were going through a time of historic portent. And the rest of what they stated was a bit scary, but also a challenge to us who know that we have work to do to build spiritualized communities. So just a bit, resilience is the ability to fall, to pick ourselves up from the floor quickly, to learn and continue with our journey. This is nothing that is at all strange to people of African descent. I'm going back to millennial. I'm going back to millions of years ago to begin with in Africa, when man looks similar to this. But yet we're still man and we're still doing things that required ingenious problem solving, the ability to survive and thrive in hostile environments, and we're being primed to continue to deal with new challenges to come. Before I say what those are, I just want to read what Abdu'l-Baha said about that time. We established before, through rational arguments, that life on this earth is very ancient, not 1 or 200,000 or even 1 or 2 million years old. It is ancient indeed. But then he goes on and he says, man was produced 10 or 100,000 years ago. Now, lest we have a clash between religion and science, we have to understand that science has found evidence of bones for man to have lived a million years ago. Remember Lucy? So in another passage, Abdu'l-Baha talked about man having reached a stage of physical perfection. And I believe, this is my thinking, that when he said that man was produced 10 or 100,000 years ago, I believe that 100,000 years is probably the beginning of man being man as we know him today.
Sue, quick question. Is your slideshow, are you able to do it in presentation view where we just see the one slide at a time? Do you know?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, I can do it that way.
Yeah, we're seeing the bar on the side
Okay,
there.
what's
Yeah.
that?
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is another view of a recreation of what man looked like around that time from the bones that were found. And as you can see, he is upright. And so that's very different from the man that we see here, who has longer arms than normal and who is somewhat bent over, not completely upright. but now he's reached the stage where he's upright. Still, it is a Paleolithic period, the Stone Age, but it's the upper Stone Age, which is closer to the next stage of man's development. So while man was still in Africa and while he was developing physically to become a more upright walking, and also to develop his intellect to be able to not only find food, but also store food so that he could travel with it, and also develop weapons that he could take with him for protection and for finding food. That's when he began to migrate. Initially, he started migrating within Africa itself. 3.6 million years ago, you can see where he started, but then between 1.5 million and 1.8 million, he started moving over into Asia, into the Asian areas of the country. And as you can see, further migration took him across the Asiatic countries, all the way over into when there was this, I think they called it the Bering Strait, when it was all ice and they were able to travel. They came over into America and then into South America. All of this, from other things that I read, took place over with gaps of 20,000 years at a time. So this took years. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of years to do this kind of migration. But this was early man. I want to play this because this is still in Africa and it still gives a bit of the skills that they had at that time.
Math is founded by African women powerhouses of Timbuktu, including
I'm just going to do one little.
Africans all across the continent have expressed a respect for women that hasn't really been seen on the same scale in other parts of the world. The matrilineal philosophy present throughout African culture seems to have afforded women various freedoms, giving them access and affirmations in places and spaces that would surprise us today. The greatest proof of this was in the Nile Valley, where women had many rights and privileges under state law, a concept that we've only recently adopted today. Anyway, contrary to popular belief, the oldest manifestation of a mathematical concept was discovered in Africa amongst the Lubombo and Ashango bones. And with one of these discoveries, according to one scholar, the needs and concerns of African women spearheaded the development of the mathematical sciences. Discovered in 1960 and dating back to around 8500 BC, the Ashango bone is one of the world's oldest mathematical tools in human history. It's kept in the Royal Institute for Natural Sciences in Belgium and can only be seen by special arrangement. The Ashango bone was found in an ancient mountainside settlement near the Lake Edward region in present-day Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The bone is named after the Ashango people who inhabited the area sometime between the 7th and 10th centuries BC. Little is known of the Ashango people except that they hunted, fished, and farmed in the area before a volcanic eruption destroyed their village. It was originally considered a simple tally record, but recent microscopic analysis has revealed additional notch marks indicating that it may have been used as a lunar calendar. The bone itself has a quartz writing tool at one end, while the body is made of bone that is etched with 3 rows of notch marks, with each row having its own mathematical significance. The first row is a series of calculations based on the number 10. The second row contains prime numbers between 10 and 20, and the third is a multiplication table. The Ashango bone is an important indicator of the scientific progress in Paleolithic Africa. With the advancement of trade among societies, knowledge of mathematics and units of measure became increasingly important. Basic mathematical calculations were also used to predict the effects of drought or floods on crop yields. With the discovery of the Ashango bone, the long-held assumption that African societies were slow to develop mathematical technology was disproved. The Ashango bone is certainly important, as it proves that Africans, since the beginning, were using the sciences to solve their problems and to enhance their lives. As amazing as the Ashango bone is, there's an even older mathematical tool that's seldom discussed. is called the Lubumbo bone and is believed to have been in use around 9000 BC. The significance of the Lubumbo bone is that it is the oldest expression of mathematics on the planet, and it's theorized that women were its primary inventors. In the 1970s, during excavations near what is today called Border Cave in the Lubumbo Mountains between South Africa and Swaziland, a small piece of the fibula of a baboon was found marked with 29 clearly defined notches. The bone, which resembles the calendar sticks still in use by the San people in Namibia today, ranks with the oldest mathematical objects known. As mentioned before, it's been suggested that since the Lubumbo bone was used as a lunar phase counter, women may have been the first mathematicians, as keeping track of menstrual cycles requires a lunar calendar. The Lubumbo bone bears witness to the existence of a very sophisticated accounting system which enabled humans to master time, and it is the first visible hint of the emergence of calculation in human history. Now, since one of the math is probably despised.
So that was just a little bit of interesting information about the degree of intellect that existed even in those early millennial years among peoples of Africa. I wanted to share with you these are real artifacts that indicate the earliest peoples to have existed in these areas of the world. The one at the top to my left is the earliest people in Mesopotamia. The one next to it in the middle is the earliest people in India. And the one next to that are the earliest people in Greece, all Black of varying colors and shades and physical characteristics. The one down here on the far left bottom is a skull that was found in stone in Mexico, giving archaeologists and anthropologists and paleologists the understanding that even in Mexico, the earliest peoples were Black peoples. Surprising for the first time I ever came across peoples in China being the earliest peoples in China being Black was a work that was done by a Chinese anthropologist who was of course shocked to find what he'd found, but then he was honest and truthful enough to publish the findings. So these are figures that were discovered that represent that time period. Sumer, which was, and many of us may have heard of Sumer or Sumeria, was the first real authentic civilization that had piped water and homes made of bricks that were developed. And these were among the earliest civilization builders, including the development of writing, sciences, engineering, medicine, architecture, religion, and the fine arts. I thought it was fascinating that it really does look like a ram in a thicket made of gold, copper shell, lapis lazuli, and limestone. And there was also a gold dagger that could have been made today, but was made back in the 25 to 2400 BC, before Christ. The ancient Sumerian civilization, it was the first of ancient Blacks, and they were named Sumerians. They were the pioneers in the development of earliest civilization in the Mesopotamia region. This would be the same region that would be considered to be Iraq, Iran, and that area. They were the first to set up city-states and form a federal system of government. Now, these are points that I wanted to share. That was one. Second, they invented a system of writing, the first that was found. They created a system of religion, mythology, architecture, literature, and economic enterprise. They, and that's just saying who the source. Fourth, their mathematical system of symbols were based on the number 60, and it also had a modern decimal system based on the number 10. Fifth, they formed cosmology, and it was to them a design that could be explained in mathematical language. Sixth, astrology. And this sculpture is a true sculpture that is in a museum now, that was found on excavation of a Sumerian ruler in 2150 BC, who obviously, as you can tell, was Black. The fascinating thing for me when I've done all of this research, is that always the nose has been somehow damaged. That raises for me really questionable thoughts about why every single artifact, no matter where it came from, when it was Black, the nose was damaged. This is another artifact of a Sumerian princess, 2600 BC. And they had law, they had codes of law, they had a political system and a social organization, and they also had institutions of learning in which people could get an education. And the whole purpose back then even was that the education would be designed to allow them to be active and efficient participants in society when they grew up. This is a way in which they wrote information, and it's a bill of sale for a field and a house. So I wanted to just share that. So there is the legend that goes, what became of the Black people of Sumer? The traveler asked the old man. For ancient records show that the people of Sumer were Black. What happened to them? Ah, the old man sighed. They lost their history, so they died. And then there is more to this story. All I said here was that it's a tragic story of that history. So we have a history of over several different periods in the development of Black people, that there was suffering and there was a need to adapt and to change the way in which we lived. This poem, I think, fits right in with that history and that continued effort to overcome the things that Black people had to suffer over the millennia.
I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers.
So I'm going to read this one. This is just something that I wrote. Black civilizations began a long and slow decline. By the 15th century AD, much of Black civilization in Africa, Egypt, and other areas was being systematically and categorically destroyed, altered, discounted, and disbelieved or attributed to any group other than Blacks, even in Black Africa, by the European conquerors. As the horrors of colonization in Africa and then slavery took up more and more concrete shape, Blacks began to forget who we really are and began taking on the identity forced upon us. We developed what I call spiritual amnesia. And yet, in spite of that, in spite of the oppression, in spite of the subjugation, in spite of the maiming and the killing, the capacity to endure and survive, even to thrive in oppressive conditions, the spiritual vision to see beyond the moment, the hour, the day, the driving need to contribute to the betterment of humanity, all humanity, the heart-centered need to hold each other up and keep each other safe, both physically and spiritually, that goes even beyond Blacks ourselves. Seeing each other as brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles. How many times, if we have a friend come into the home, our mother would tell us to call her auntie, call him uncle, or it's a cousin, or to take someone in who is not a quote unquote blood relative, but becomes a relative because that's just the way it was. Strong spiritual sense of justice, community oriented. I am because we are. So the legacy of people of African descent falls in, from my perspective, into two categories. One is the mental and spiritual qualities, and two is the suffering and loss. We talk a lot about, and we understand a lot about, the suffering and loss, the subjugation and oppression, the physical and mental horrific abuse, the separation from family, culture, the forced labor, the nowhere to turn for sustenance but to our God, being stolen, raped, maimed, killed, made to believe that we are less than human, lied about in education and religion and society and media and books and advertisements, in institutions in the legal system. Centuries of living under chattel slavery and white supremacy, and spiritual and mental amnesia. But in spite of all of that, we became civilization, not became, we were civilization builders, creators, innovators, inventors, strong or unwavering spiritual beings, humility before our God, healers, uniters of all that is human, flexibility and adaptability, family and community oriented, unbreakable connection with I am because we are, or Ubuntu. So we have deep roots and no reason to fear the wind. And we, as people of the eye, are reclaiming that, are beginning to understand more and more what that means for us. Oh, I was going to do that, but I changed my mind for time. So the Black experience is deeply relational with the Baha'i understanding of humanity. Ubuntu is an idea present in African spirituality that says I am because we are, or we are all connected. We cannot be ourselves without community. Health and faith are always lived out among others. An individual's well-being is caught up in the well-being of others. Archbishop Desmond Tutu stated, "It means you are generous, you are hospitable, you are friendly and caring and compassionate. You share what you have." So hearing a bit about our spiritual and genetic history, we fast forward double time to today. And in 1844, the Bab declared his mission as a messenger of God or a forerunner to Baha'u'llah. He was martyred in 1850, and this is the shrine in Haifa, Israel on Mount Carmel. But at the time that he was declaring his mission, there was a servant, not a slave, but a servant who was highly educated and who was exemplary and whom the Bob took into so much confidence regarding everything that was going on with him. This Ethiopian servant was literate, skilled in commerce, and the Bob entrusted him with the task of settling his outstanding accounts and winding up his business affairs in Shiraz. So we are starting to come out from under. Then Baha'u'llah, who has one of the titles of the Ancient Beauty, declared his mission in 1863. He stated, "The Ancient Beauty hath consented to be bound with chains, that mankind may be released from its bondage, and hath accepted to be made a prisoner within this most mighty stronghold, that the whole world may attain unto true liberty. He hath drained to its dregs the cup of sorrow, that all the peoples of the earth may attain unto abiding joy, and be filled with gladness. This is of the mercy of your Lord, the compassionate, the most merciful. We have accepted to be abased, O believers in the unity of God, that ye may be exalted, and have suffered manifold afflictions, that ye may prosper and flourish." When he revealed himself in 1863, that same year, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed here in America to free the slaves. And Baha'u'llah was the one that gave the designation of pupil of the eye to all peoples of Africa and African descent. And this is his shrine near Akka in Israel. So here are some of the quotes regarding us and who we are. Baha'u'llah once compared the colored people to the black pupil of the eye surrounded by the white. In this black pupil is seen the reflection of that which is before it, and through it the light of the Spirit shineth forth. Again, thou art dark in countenance and bright in character. Thou art like unto the pupil of the eye, which is dark in color, yet is the fount of light and the revealer of the contingent world. Again, verily the faces of these are as the pupil of the eye. Although the pupil is created black, yet it is the source of light. I hope God will make these black ones the glory of the white ones, and as the depository of the lights of the love of God. And I beg of God to assist them in all circumstances, that they may be encompassed with the favors of their loving Lord throughout centuries and ages. Last one, the reflection of a person is seen in the black pupil of the eye. In other words, the pupil of the eye is a mirror of social reality. Now, of course, this requires a presentation can be done just on this, regarding what that means. But the important thing to know is not only do we see, we understand, and we can shine the light on the path forward for humanity to be able to move into the unification that is now meant to have.
Pupil of the eye, the source of our vision, teachings of a holy man who spoke to us from prison. Pupil of the eye, the creator's gift of sight, a gift for all humanity, seekers of the light. There are so many things we say that influence the mind. Those hidden little messages that are so hard to find. To show just one example, let's talk about a color. How black is shown as negative in one way or another. Of course, we know that's not the case when we refer to white. In fact, we use the color white to represent what's right. But those of us that have a tone that's of a darker hue see blackness in a different light. Another point of view. Pupil of the eye, the source of our vision. Teachings of a holy man who spoke to us from prison. Pupil of the eye, the Creator's gift of sight, a gift for all humanity, seekers of the light. Sounds that enter through the ear, melodies of old, orchestrating different notes to touch and soothe the soul. A symphony of music, creating harmony, appreciating differences with its diversity. A special walk, that soulful talk, flavored with pizzazz. Innovative music, just listen to some jazz. Reggae, hip-hop, samba, and don't forget the blues. Ways to find expression, years of paying dues. Pupil of the eye, the source of our vision. Teachings of a holy man who spoke to us from prison. Pupil of the eye, the Creator's gift of sight, a gift for all humanity, seekers of the light. The queen of class and dignity, Oprah, seen and heard. America's classical music, from Duke, Diz, and Bird. International leadership with strength, yet always calm. Promoting peace and unity, Mr. Kofi Annan. Uplifting words that touch your heart, from Maya Angelou. A pioneer in medicine, Dr. Charles Drew. Arthur Ashe and Jim Brown speaking out, they weren't afraid. Marva Collins and Bill Cosby helping youth to make it great. Pupil of the eye, the source of our vision. Teachings of a holy man who spoke to us from prison. Pupil of the eye, the Creator's gift of sight, a gift for all humanity, seekers of the light. Malcolm Martin Mandela, standards for the world, to make this earth a better place for every boy and girl. Beige and brown and black and white, a variety of colors. Yet one human family, all sisters and brothers. Bearing burdens from the past, enslaved and sometimes sold. enduring untold horrors while survival was the goal. But darkness equals mystery, a search for the unknown. Seeking spirituality, we know we're not alone.
The earth's human garden we see before our eyes, representing unity if we only realize.
But as we care for flowers, so none will be neglected. Humanity is much the same. We all must be respected.
Pupil of the eye,
The source of our vision,
teachings of a holy man who spoke to us from prison.
pupil of the eye,
The Creator's gift of sight, a gift for all humanity, seekers of the light. Yes, we're seekers of the light.
seekers of the light.
Baha'u'llah. World unity is what we need for you and me.
When Baha'u'llah gave us, or gave us a weak word, when Baha'u'llah designated us as pupil of the eye, the station that he gave us, there was work associated with that. There's responsibilities associated with that. And so just a little bit of time that I'd like to spend on that. As we become awakened, as the amnesia subsides, and we begin to remember who we really are, as we allow our DNA to vibrate and turn on and become strong, then we see ourselves as something different, something more spiritually powerful in a way that's meant to be of service to the whole of mankind. The Guardian feels very strongly that the Negro Baha'is have great responsibilities, both towards their own race and towards their fellow believers. They must not only arise to teach the cause to the members of their own race, but must do all in their power to ensure that within their Baha'i community itself, the Negro and white believers understand and love each other and are truly as one soul in different bodies. I want to interject a little something there. Shoghi Effendi said that back in the 1930s. And that's when the people of America were being, the Baha'is of America, were being directed, encouraged, guided towards doing this kind of work to unite Black and white. Things have changed so much since then that now people of African descent or people of the eye are much more inclined to teach their own and to raise up more people of African descent so that we can move forward in doing our work, because we're realizing that here in America, things are getting worse, not better, as far as white supremacy is concerned. That doesn't mean we're going to leave anyone behind, but it does mean that we're not going to stop and stall to try to pull someone behind us. Why is this so important, and why on our shoulders? Abdu'l-Baha says, the continent of America is in the eyes of the one true God, the land wherein the splendors of his light shall be revealed, where the mysteries of his faith shall be unveiled, where the righteous will abide and the free will assemble. There's a researcher, and she's white, and she's doing a lot of amazing work around racial justice. And here's her comment. Research and experience overwhelmingly prove that racial justice is rife in America's communities and institutions. But white ignorance, the denial of such injustice, persists on a wide scale because many people cling to the stories they have inherited. She also says whiteness is inseparable from white supremacy, a social, political, and economic system that we have inherited as a nation for the purposes of preserving the land, wealth, and power white men have accrued by colonizing North America. Then the final thing she says is that racism is interlinked with that frame of thought. Racism is not just prejudice, it is race-based prejudice that is reinforced by systems of power. And if we were to sit down and have a discussion about this, I think we could come up with all kinds of examples of what that looks like. Amato Baha Ruhia Khanum is the wife of the guardian of the Baha'i faith, Shoghi Effendi. Here's what she said. When Baha'u'llah likens the Negro race to the faculty of sight in the human body, the act of perception, with all it implies, is a pretty terrific statement. He never said this of anyone else. I thought the American Negro's humility, his kindness, friendliness, courtesy, and hospitableness were something to do with his oppression and the background of slavery. But after spending weeks, day after day in the villages of Africa, seeing literally thousands of Baha'is and non-Baha'is, I have waken up to the fact that the American Negro has these beautiful qualities, not because he was enslaved, but because he has the characteristics of his race. The Universal House of Justice, in its very recent letter, November 25th, 2020, is calling to us and letting us know what is happening. There is a mounting realization on the part of the world's people that the decades ahead are set to bring with them challenges among the most daunting that the human family has ever had to face. The current global health crisis is but one such challenge, the ultimate severity of whose costs, both to lives and livelihoods, is yet unknown. Your efforts to succor and support one another, as well as your sisters and brothers in society at large, will certainly need to be sustained and in places expanded. This paragraph that they shared struck me particularly when it said, at the national, regional, and cluster levels, we look to communities of proven strength to help those in which less experience has accrued. In this year-long effort, every community must draw on whatever untapped potential it may possess and seek to overcome any obstacles that are impeding its growth, thereby preparing it for the demands to come. Now, at first pass, and we do understand that when the House of Justice releases a document for us to study and for us to use as a way to serve mankind, that they are going to be calling us to action as it relates to the 5-year plan, or to whatever plan it is. But this struck me when it said, we look to communities of proven strength to help those in which less experience has accrued. Now we can talk about it being those communities that have become level 3 clusters and have a certain number of junior youth activities and a certain number of children's classes and a certain number of study circles going on. And that certainly would be true. But this is how we tend to look at letters, because we look at it through the lens of the dominant culture's view. But if we look at it with a deeper view, and considering what was just shared tonight about the pupil of the eye and the millennial history that we carry within us, my understanding, my thought is that this also includes turning to those people of African descent within our communities that can help to make this process move forward in a way that it could not otherwise. This is the story of Derek Smith, who was a runner, and it's a story of an individual form of resilience, but I thought it was worth taking a break and seeing his story. Oops. Okay, so we'll watch it on YouTube, if it'll let us. Can everyone see this?
That face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. That face wouldn't be doing that if you weren't on Virgo's Lake House.
We can't see it.
You're together.
Stop sharing or reshare again.
Okay. What I'm going to do first then is pull it up on YouTube. Oh, it's already here. Okay. No, I didn't see it. Is that it? I think that's it. So can everyone see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Awaits. Find it with Verbo.
Oops.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. raise me up to more than I can be.
Okay, I'm going back to the original. This is another example. And of course, these, please understand that these are just like dipping a toenail into the ocean of how Blacks deal with the oppression and the subjugation that they have to endure. This is a group of naval officers. They were called the Golden 13, but they were not meant to become naval officers. The First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, along with Adlai Stevenson, who then was an Assistant Secretary of the Navy, encouraged the Navy to do an officer training course for 16 African Americans that were enlisted. But they weren't wanting to do that. And so they thought, okay, we'll do it, but we'll make sure they fail. We'll make that 16-week course an 8-week course. Well, when this group of naval cadets heard, they decided to practice constructive resilience. They covered up the windows of their barracks and studied all night. When they were tested, the entire group passed with high marks. Disbelief in the chain of command that an all-Black cadet class could achieve higher scores than an all-white one meant that the Black sailors had to suffer the indignity of retaking their test. Because, unfortunately, white supremacists cannot possibly believe that someone Black could have that level of intelligence. They passed again, but they only chose 13 out of the 16, 12 to be officers and one that they called a warrant officer. It wasn't until 1987 that there was an acknowledgement made, and that was when they named one of the buildings the Golden 13 after them. American society, as stated earlier, is rife with racism. And what makes it so, and I'll be reading some of the things that the House of Justice has said about the kind of racism that we deal with here in America. What makes it so intractable is that those who live under white supremacy, that have that, and it's not about the color of the skin, it's about the consciousness. Just like Black is not so much about the color of the skin as it is about Black consciousness. So this white consciousness is reinforced over and over and over again regarding their superiority, their entitlement, and their privilege. And then, of course, Blacks receive over and over and over again information through the media, through school, through whatever they come in contact with, their inferiority, and that they are somehow less than. No less serious is the stress and strain imposed on the fabric of American society through the fundamental and persistent neglect by the governed and governors alike of the supreme, the inescapable, and urgent duty, so repeatedly and graphically represented and stressed by Abdu'l-Baha in his arraignment of the basic weaknesses in the social fabric of the nation, of remedy, and while there is yet time, through a revolutionary change in the concept and attitude of the average white American toward his Black fellow citizen, a situation which, if allowed to drift, will, in the words of Abdu'l-Baha, caused the streets of American cities to run with blood. What we're experiencing now is not that, so we haven't experienced it yet. All we're seeing are the satellites of it. The House of Justice calls racism, the kind of racism that we have in this country, baneful, cancerous affliction, a patent evil, transmuted into forms that are multifaceted, less blatant and more intricate. In other words, you can't always see it in your face, but it's hidden and being practiced under the table, having the same or similar effect, and thus more intractable, meaning extremely difficult to eradicate. They refer to the long and thorny road beset with pitfalls in the work that has to be done to heal and transform a racist society like ours. They call it a pernicious blight on American society. Abdu'l-Baha gave dire warnings. Shoghi Effendi shared with us a trenchant analysis. House of Justice in its August 2018 message called it a devastating ferocity. They stated in their July 22nd message of 2020, there are countervailing processes, overt or covert. Countervailing means no matter what you do, they're going to find a way to get around it to maintain the system as it is. Forces of oppression and the long and thorny road beset with pitfalls is still there, still lies ahead. They also call it a profound deviation from the standard of true morality. This country was built as a racist country. So that means that none of us that live in this country know what true morality looks like. It's something that we have to work at blindly, thinking about the aspects of spirituality that will help to build true morality, and then seeing how it can unfold. In 1927, I believe it was, Sadie Oglesby, a Black Baha'i, made a pilgrimage to Haifa, Israel, and spent 20 days with the Guardian, who asked her a lot of questions about things he already knew about because of who he was. And one of the things that she said to him, because she wanted confirmation if she understood, at this time, the oldest race represented upon the earth is the colored race, while the youngest or last to have attained a high civilization is the white race. And in order to close this cycle and save the civilization of this day, the oldest and youngest, or first and last, that is the white and colored, or outer ends of the cycle must link together. Then the inner or intermediate races will take their places. Thus the family of Baha'u'llah will be established. Shoghi Effendi said, that is true, but if we fail to do this, we will be dispersed. There's a book called Lights of the Spirit, in which Gwen Etta Lewis and Richard Thomas shared story after story after story of Black Baha'is within the faith, early Black Baha'is within the faith. And more of Sadie Oglesby's story is in that book if you ever choose to get a copy and read those stories. Amato Bahar Ruhia Khanum was the wife of Shoghi Effendi, but she was a white Canadian, so she had things to learn as well. However, she said this. Shoghi Effendi said that the majority of the human race was not white, and that the majority of Baha'is would not be white in the future. As up until very recently, the Baha'is of the world were almost exclusively white. It is only natural that their virtues and their faults should have colored the faith and its community life. It is illogical to suppose that what we have now is either mature or right. It is a phase in the development of the cause. When peoples of different races are incorporated in the worldwide community and in local communities, who can doubt that it will possess far greater power and perfection and be something quite different from what we have now? And yet, let us ask ourselves frankly, if we do not believe that what we North American Baha'is have is the real thing, practically a finished product, and it is up to the rest of the world to accept it. I think this is our mentality. It was mine up until a few years ago. Very authentic sharing that she did. She also shared this. When Baha'u'llah likens the Negro race to the faculty of sight in the human body, the act of perception, with all it implies, it's a pretty terrific statement. He never said this of anyone else. I thought the American Negro's humility, his kindness, friendliness, courtesy, and hospitableness were something to do with his oppression and the background of slavery. But after spending weeks, day after day in the villages of Africa, seeing literally thousands of Baha'is and non-Baha'is, I have waken up to the fact that the American Negro has these beautiful qualities, not because he was enslaved, but because he has the characteristics of his race. Reading that for a second time. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. If anyone has read or has heard of Joy DeGruy's book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, but has not read it, I highly recommend it, because for this part, the side of us that has to do with suffering, she was able to break that down to the genetic level of how that suffering affects people of African descent. But through that suffering and through the overcoming, the roots of our souls are deep. This is on building resilience. And I'm almost finished, y'all.
Resilience is the result of a highly interactive process between individual characteristics in the person and the environment in which that individual has developed.
It's really the counterbalancing of difficult things that may exist in the child's life with positive things that occur within the family, but even positive things that may exist in the community.
An easy way of thinking about resilience is like a scale with a fulcrum in the middle of it. And there are things on both sides of that scale, experiences of both bad things or good things.
Our genes shape where the fulcrum is positioned at the start.
There are certain genes that make a child more sensitive to the effects of maltreatment or parental neglect or witnessing violence.
The fulcrum may start out kind of more towards one side or more towards the other side, and that's going to make a big difference in terms of how much these subsequent events affect things positively or negatively.
Science tells us that experience moves the fulcrum, for better or for worse.
Even though we are born with genes, genes will respond differently to certain environmental situations as opposed to others.
What the genes are actually doing are turning up or turning down the expression of chemicals in circuits in the brain and the circuitry in the entire body that govern our responses to stress, to anxiety, to depressive symptoms.
When positive experiences accumulate and children learn coping skills that help them to manage stress, the fulcrum can slide, so the scale tilts toward positive outcomes more easily. That's what resilience is all about.
There's always an adult, or more than one adult, who is key to providing that relationship that helps to build resilience.
So just briefly with this last slide, in completing the 5-year plan and in working on what we don't know yet, the 1-year plan that's upcoming, we don't know yet what that will be, but we can assume that it's going to continue with community building, expansion and consolidation, social action, and those aspects of community building that include gender youth groups and children's classes and study circles and so on. So just briefly with the community building, is just to say that if we can center Blackness in the work that we do, then we have a millennial genetic experience that can inform how it is done, and to make sure that it's done in a way that's relational and that is filled with love and not to say that someone who is not Black cannot do that, but the veils and the circumstances that they have to wade through to become these things that are not natural is higher. And so it's much more difficult for them to not come in with a paternalistic attitude, because that's what happens when you are raised in a racist society and have some of those aspects within you. We understand that's a lifetime healing process for people who have white consciousness. So just wanted to remind us of those martyrs that have helped us all to become awake, or to become more gradually awake. And there's certainly more since these, but just a reminder. Let us pray for one another that the work that we do will be within the context of Ubuntu, from I am because we are. Thank you.
Sue.
Yeah.
That was riveting.
Oh, thank you.
That was absolutely riveting. And I see people shaking their heads, agreeing. The way in which you presented this information and the broad sweep that you managed to encompass, this is a phenomenal presentation. And I thank you so deeply for it. It's just wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. We're open for questions and comments. Question we always get, yes, it's recorded. Yes, you'll get the slideshow. If you're on our email list, all of that will come to you. If you're not on the email list and would like to be, please put your email address, city and state in the chat. The chat's open now. And tonight, I think, given our size, if participants, if you want to raise your hand in the participant thing or the reaction, if you have a question or comment, and we'll proceed that way. And I'll call on you, and then we can engage with Sue with comments, questions, reflections. That was just amazing. It really was. It really was.
I begged Baha'u'llah to do it.
Did. I think he answered your prayer. I'm just in awe behind it. I really am. And you just took us through so much. Everything was so pertinent and relevant and measured and meaningful.
Wow.
Everything. And people that know me know I don't go on and on about stuff unless I'm really feeling it. And so I'm really feeling it. But let's have some questions here, folks. Please raise a hand if you would. Are people still digesting? I'm sure you must be. I certainly am. Oh, we have a hand raised. Okay, Barbara Talley.
Oh, Barbara.
Yes, she's here.
I'll be quick because the TV's in the background. This is my 5th Zoom for the day. So I'm laying on the couch, so that's why my camera's on. Sue, that was wonderful presentation. I love the bones, that group, the bones. I mean, I live in this world too, that Pody world where we're looking for more and more things to share with people and to educate ourselves about the history that's been ripped from us or hid from us. And but showing those, I really love that. It was a wonderful presentation. Kudos, it was wonderful. But that bone thing, and you almost had me crying here when you had the resilience video when the guy just said, "I'm gonna finish."
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, Sue. Thank God my camera's off, because I'm like, Charlene had to be on the camera and like wipe hers off, but I was behind the camera. But that was, it's just amazing for us to understand who we are, and everyone, and I want to, really, shout out to you too, Charlene, for creating this space, also a unified space, and bringing in such talented people as Sue to be able to share and keep this conversation going, because I think it's the momentum. The momentum is what's going to change. The House of Worship talks about fits and starts, all that kind of stuff, but we Podys got this. Look at these Pody women. We got this, and we're not going to, stop until we reach that finish line, because as Sue said, the blood running in the street, while there's some of that, we know that when we come out of obscurity as a faith, we're going to have even more attacks, and we've got to be united. We've got to be united. As one of those slides says, if we fail to do this, we will be dispersed. Think about what that means. Be dispersed. And one of the questions I get so often is, okay, what about me? I'm not Pody, I'm not Sodi, I'm not Black, I'm white. I didn't create this stuff. And I'm so glad, Sue, that you put that quote there from the Sadie Oglesby in The Lights of Guidance, where it says the oldest race and the youngest race, when if they reach out and they can connect hands, every other group will adjust in the middle. And so I said to a young man, he said, but what about us in the middle? What are we supposed to do? And I said, well, if you're in the middle, you're in the best position to reach to the right and the left and help bring us together. I just wanted to say congratulations. Thank you both for what you do. Appreciate you, Sue. Bye.
Thank you. Coming from you, Barbara, that's very warming, very heartwarming.
Barbara, yeah, thank you very much. Jessica Turner has her hand up. Go ahead, please, Jessica.
Friends, I just wanted to say that one of the things that struck me, Sue, when you were speaking was that the station, the spiritual designation of the people of the eye, is such a powerful remedy for spiritual and mental amnesia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That I didn't think about. Yes, I didn't think about that with that clarity. Thank you. Yes.
Sure. And I think
there she is.
Baha'u'llah has with African Americans and with women, reminded us of what we are and who we are in a way that sets the record straight, provides healing for all of the harm that's been done. I mean, there's still work to do there, individually and collectively, but it's our rightful station.
Yeah.
As equal and fabulous and
the important thing is that I made sure to keep in what it said about how all of us are given the station to do this work. Yes. To be the leaven that will leaven the world, and then within that, people of the eye given that specific special station. But it doesn't allow those who are white to sit back on their laurels. You have your part to play as well.
Dude, if we sit back on our laurels any longer,
We're all in this together.
Well for us in
We're all
terms
in this
of our own
together.
spiritual.
Yeah. We're all in this together. Thank you so much, Jessica. Ronaldo.
Yes, thank you. I thank you. That was very wonderful presentation on sharing the reality of the times that we're living in and the challenge of staying calm and arising. I do have two questions. One, the musical piece, Pupil of the Eye, is that on YouTube by chance?
Yes, I got it off of YouTube.
Yes.
I first encountered it when Barbara and I was helping her doing that first People of the Eye conference.
Mm-hmm.
We played it there.
Beautiful piece. And then the other, sometime before you get off, would you be able to share that slide again about the migration? I want to take a picture of it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. You will get the slides as well in your follow-up email, Ronaldo. And also regarding Phil Morrison, for those of you that were here at our last gathering with the potlatch, the devotional potlatch, Phil was there. And this is coming to you in the mail. I've just had problems editing it, but he has given us access to his full catalog of all of his work. And it includes, of course, the Pupil of the Eye. So you'll have that. You can get that in multiple ways now. Yeah, so I just want you to know it is forthcoming and you'll get everything.
Very much.
And can I say, Sue, I asked him about POTI 2021. Would he do something or be there? And he said yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Any more thoughts or comments? I'm going to ask. Sometimes I ask people in the audience questions. You can do that too if you'd like, Sue. Oh, there's two hands up. Oh, okay. La Jamaya. Thank you, Nason. La Jamaya.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue, so much for that presentation.
Oh, you're welcome, La Jamaya.
I appreciate what you give that enriches my understanding and my knowledge. And I know that is true of everybody who's on the site tonight. I have a question, and I'm wondering if you might help us by sharing, what does a POTI-centered community look like?
What does
a POTI-centered community look like?
Could you repeat that? It was a little faint. Everyone may not have caught your question, La Jamaya.
She was asking, what does a POTI-centered community look like? You can say POTI-centered, Pupil of the Eye-centered, Black-centered, but it's all about, instead of the decisions, the consultation being run and managed by those white in the community, that they look to those who are Black in the community to get their take before they decide, well, this is the way that we have to do it. And I'll give you an example of how important that is. When we are reading the messages from the Universal House of Justice, we of course are reading them through our own lens, and we're gaining understanding through our own lens. And I found over and over and over again, what I'm seeing is very different than what those who are white in the community are seeing. But yet, it's what they are seeing that drives what we do. And there was a time before I became fully awake where I would just say, oh, well, I guess I don't get it. I guess I don't understand it like I think I do. But now I've come to the realization that, yes, I do understand it the way that I think I do, because I've seen failures as a result of it going the way that that it was decided that it should go by the members of the white community. And so I in my own community, whenever I get an opportunity, I'm expressing that there should be someone Black in the group. Why isn't there at least, that's what Shoghi Effendi said, that there should be at least one person in every group that is making decisions about the faith going forward, whether it's an assembly or a regional council or a RTI board or a ITC, whatever it is, there has to be at least one Black person, because it will change the dynamic of what they see.
If I could add just a little bit to that, from my own personal experience, when I became a Baha'i in Long Beach, California, it was predominantly a white and Persian Baha'i community, like many here in the US. And I was really the only Black person in the community. But I was included in everything. And I'm really grateful that I came into the faith, as a new believer, in that community, because they had an understanding about what minority representation in the faith means. So, for example, it wasn't just, okay, we have a minority person, on committees, but they had a by-election within 3 months of my declaring. And I ended up on the assembly. And I firmly believe it's not because of any, things spiritually special about me, okay, but because they recognized that I was the only person of color that could bring that perspective to the assembly. And for that reason, again, that's just my supposition, I never asked, but that really, as a Baha'i, as an individual, that really grounded me deeply in a very positive way in the faith, because I knew that my personage, my history, my background was of value. And that was very affirming, as an individual. And I was a young woman, early 20s, very early 20s. But so that does happen. And I think that's an example that I can speak of where I may not have been centered, but I was definitely included. So I just wanted to share that with folks. Okay. Oh, Gwendolyn, I'm sorry, Gwendolyn, please go ahead.
So I want to thank Sue for such an amazing talk. My heart is full, my mind is full. There were points when I was crying, but I just, and I want to also thank you for reminding us of our responsibility for doing this work. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Gwen, dear. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming.
Yes, very much so. Okay. Someone else. We have a lot of quiet, reflective people here this evening. And Sue has certainly given us a lot to reflect on, hasn't she? It's a lot to take in. It was amazing. I'm going to turn this one around so fast.
I put something in the chat. You can read what I put in the chat.
You have questions in the chat, you said?
I put something in the chat, yeah.
Okay, Cynthia, is that you speaking?
Yes, I put something in the chat that was being answered.
Okay, do you want to just say it, Cynthia?
I'd have to find it, let me see.
Okay, well, let me go on. I've got someone up with their hands up while you look for that, okay? Yeah, I'm working off the hand thing tonight. John?
Yes, I just want to say with the initials SS, Sister of Substance, knocked me over with a feather. I was part of a Zoom last night, and I forget the title of it, but it centered northwest of the Twin Cities, a larger African-American community there, where a lot of Baha'is have been working with the community. And in a discussion that came up where I mentioned I was on a Zoom with the Wilmette course I'm doing, so I joined it late. But it had a similar organic effect on me as tonight has. And that's basically, there is a reality of Poti that is just a human dynamic of the moment we're in right now. And it isn't that, as the younger race or as a Caucasian person that I don't have contributions to make. But at this point in time, the dynamic for what needs to happen for balance, for healing, for transcendence, I want to, and I believe we need to, as a white race. As Sherilyn said, she was a new Baha'i, but there was a worthiness of value there. There was something that is greatly needed. If a person is sick and needs a certain medicine, whether they've ingested it never in their life, they might need to take that medicine right now. And to me, Poti is that medicine for this country, for humanity. And I just want to say, please step forward. I am here to listen. It's not that I love you any less, I'm any less of a human being, but for where we're at as a human race right now, this is the medicine that's been prescribed by Baha'u'llah, and Poti is the most potent antidote that humanity needs right now. And as white people, we need to do what we can to facilitate this, just as those beautiful Baha'is in Wisconsin did for and with Sherilyn, but more pointedly for humanity and for the faith. And so thank you, Sister of Substance, because what you brought tonight was deep as the river.
Thank you so much. What wonderful comments from a white male, which makes it all the more meaningful and heartfelt. Thank you so much, John. And I loved what you said about Poti is the medicine for right now. That's a wonderful thought to have. Yeah. Which doesn't take away from what others are supposed to do, but yeah.
Yes. Okay. On the list, this is who I have. I've got Cynthia next and then Chuck Hendrickson. So Cynthia, you're up.
Hello. Yes, I found my posting. And Sue, that was absolutely beautiful. It was one of those kind of talks where you just have to be still and take it in, because there was so much really powerful information, and so that I think that may be a reason for some of the quietness, is because it was just that good, so I guess the quickest question I had was I posted in the chat room when someone said, what does a Poti-centered look like? And I think we've been seeing it in 2020 and 21, all of these Zooms that we've been having, where we're basically openly talking with each other about issues and stating that the faith is far from finished. When you said that and that it's since Raheel Khanum said that, since the world is of color, then it makes sense that the faith would also look that way. And unless and until we get to that point, the faith is not done, so we haven't even scratched the surface. So, what will it look like? It will look like in America, Americans. So it will not look foreign anymore. It will look like American. The music will sound American. It will reflect all the various cultures that are American with the American feel to it. That's what it will look like. And, like these Zooms we've been having, the people of color, the people of the eye will offer, their guidance and humbly, be out front. And because we have suffered for so long, we are resilient. So it was just a beautiful talk. I'm starting to ramble, so I'll stop. But it was very, very beautiful and very, very timely. And thank you for it.
Thank you, Cynthia. I loved your comments. Wow, thank you.
So, okay, after Chuck Hendrickson, then I have Milton Conway, AKA Booby. for all his friend, and everyone all of his friends call him Booby. So, Chuck?
First, I'll say we've missed Booby the last few weeks.
Yes, we have.
It's his rendition in the devotions are dearly missed. I have a comment and an aside. I'll do the aside first. The aside was the video of the runner had me in tears.
Oh yeah.
My comment there are so many points that, you know, it's hard to pick one to say anything about, but the comment, one of the things that hit me, probably because it was more towards the end, the most, and it kind of goes along with what John was saying and what Phyllis just said, or Cynthia just said, has to do with the first of the last two quotes that you did with Rahia Khanum. You know, if the predominant color in this world is black, then folks in this country, we got it backwards. And I'm not just talking about the American society. I'm talking about the awakening that Rahia Khanum had and just sort of put into words what we've been working towards in Copper to Gold. And that is the Baha'i community is backwards, you know, as far as balance of Podis and whites and Persians and, you know, other people. So, you know, it kind of goes along with what John's saying, you know, I'm here to help, but just help me know what I need to do to help. And I pray that every day.
Chuck is from my community and he's wonderful at doing that.
Yes.
Thank you. That's
You're
all.
welcome.
Thank you, Sue.
Milton?
Hello, hey. Thank you, Sherilyn, for this beautiful series. And I'm going to piggyback on what Cynthia said. This series, very specifically, is what Podi-centered society looks like. Sue, thank you so much for everything you put together. You have given me information from the first slide to the last slide that I can use, you know, to help in my community. I'm in the greater North New Jersey area. I say fairly new, but it's been about a decade since I found the faith, and Baha'u'llah helped me find him. And the question I have is still here today, is where I'm one of very few who are able to recognize Baha'u'llah in the area, and I'm concerned and wondering why, since these quotes about Africans in America being the pupil of the eye, being around since the late 1800s, early 1900s, how is it that the people in my community haven't heard about it to know? You know, when I first heard the hidden word, noble have I created thee, why hast thou based thyself rising for that, to that for which you were created? I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I just want to know if anybody else has studied it in a way to see why it hasn't hit our inner cities. Why in all these years, you know, hasn't it got there? As a former attendee to the Black Men's Gathering, I was there for the last 3 years, and I saw, you know, the spectrum of folks who were there from all across the country, you know, beautiful Black men. But what I did see mostly was educated and intellectual Black men, and I didn't see the people that I'm used to seeing in the hood, you know, on my block. And why is it so difficult? Now I'm trying to prepare myself to be better able to make sure I could go out on the block and get the young men and the boys in the hood, you know, the ones who are so quick to gravitate to the gangster culture, to see and find Baha'u'llah. So if you can help me, you know, I would appreciate it. You've done enough with this presentation to get me started, that's for sure. But just help me understand why it's taking so long.
I think it's a process that we are learning. There's like three different areas that I thought of when you spoke, because I think the questions you're asking are powerful questions that we have to be asking ourselves as we're doing this work as people of the eye. Because remember, we grew up and we have been conditioned in this culture also. And so we have to separate ourselves from identification that has been given us as Black people, so that we don't internalize anymore the ways in which white people do things, to do it that way, and to reconsider, rethink, so now how do I do it? And this is a work in progress that's happening for us who are recognizing ourselves as people of the eye now. It's a process where we're starting to think about this. And it's like, well, how was it before I became a Baha'i? And how did I interact with the people in my neighborhood and in my church before I became a Baha'i? Going back and rethinking who I was, even in that context, let alone historically. And how did my grandma talk? And how did my great-grandma talk? And what are the kind of things that my mother say that I suppressed and pushed down because it didn't fit with what I was thinking I was supposed to be as a Baha'i. And so now I'm rethinking those. That's one thing. The other thing is, oh gosh, I forgot the other two. But that's part of it. We have to just relook at things with a different lens, with our own lens. And you know what helps a lot? What we're finding out that helps a lot is the music, our music.
Oh yeah.
Going back to the spirituals, going back to the Gospels. That the way that moves us, it opens something back up inside of us.
Yeah.
That we had suppressed.
I totally get that part.
It makes us a hollow reed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a key element there. When you made reference a few seconds ago about those in our past, you went to the matriarch and you talked to the mothers and the grandmothers. And I think personally, that's what I'm coming to understand. That in the scripture where it talks about in the times that we're in, that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. See, those who have been first have been the white males, and those who have been last were the Black females. And when you put up that presentation about the Black woman being the first mathematicians, oh my God, you don't know what you did for me and where I'm at right now, because I got a campaign going where I'm trying to tell everybody, look, we had a white male Jesus and a male deity. I'm going to go for the Black woman. My mama has been the God of my life. My daddy was there. He was just her helper. I'm going to let everybody know that that's the way it is. And you two beautiful Black women have done more today to help reinforce that concept. So if anybody want to tell me I was wrong, they're going to have a problem. Thank you very much. I love you both. Thank you so much.
Loved your song, your music. Beautiful.
Everybody
Really
keep telling me I need to record it. I have never recorded myself before, but I think I got to getting that done now. So
yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Booby. If I could just add a little bit, I've run across this essay by Louis Gregory that talks at great length about what the American Baha'i community needed to be doing back in the 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. My timing's off a little bit, but it's something worth looking at because it gives us a very good idea. And basically the gist of it is, and I think it pertains now, of course, just my point of view, but that the Baha'i Friends over the decades here in the US, or the centuries actually, or the century, have really focused more on teaching white Baha'is, or teaching the faith to white people. And as a consequence, we don't have that much traction in African-American communities. But I know here in Salisbury, Maryland, where I am now, back in the 70s, there was a teaching campaign here, and there were over 70 Black people here that declared. You know, so it's not that we're not receptive to it, but it just hasn't, there's not been a systematic effort to do what the Guardian has asked us to do. We have not been systematic about it, and we have not been, all of us, wholeheartedly engaged in that process. So that's just my take on that. And I think those of us that are waking up, you know, we're all looking at, okay, it's time to roll. You know, like Chuck said and others, you know, we need to start doing what we've been asked. It's that simple. It really, really is. So, and we're preparing for that and doing that each in our own individual capacity. So,
right.
Yeah, thank you. Ronaldo had his hand up again. Ronaldo.
All right, I just wanted to share in response to Milton's question. So it is a challenging thing. So I'll speak from me. I think part of it was fear on my part of not knowing what to say. You know, there were two young African-American teenagers. They were out at the store asking people to purchase a cigarette for them. And in my heart, I wanted to say something to them, but I couldn't think of what to say, you know. And as Bahá'u'lláh tells us, open up our mouth. And so that's been a challenge, you know, to know what to say, I mean, at specific times. Particular time.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very good point. I think we all come up against that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all.
One of the things, I love what you said about the teaching whites versus teaching blacks, and how historically we tended to do that, even though Abdu'l-Baha told us in the South to teach the blacks and the whites will come in. But we didn't believe it, evidently. And then Shoghi Effendi, the same thing. I mean, they all but begged us to do that. At the same time, they had those amazing race amity conferences. And when you see the pictures, there were a lot of blacks in there. So I was thinking, what happened to all these black people? Well, we know what happened.
Yep.
They were not well received. They could feel what's going on, and they disappeared. So we just have to start over again with a different mindset for doing work.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Who else? Okay, I'm gonna call some people out here in a minute. You guys have never seen me do that before. Oh, good. Amir is saving everybody. Go ahead, Amir.
Yeah. So as you guys know, I'm new to the Baha'i faith, and please take my comments. I mean, you guys know much more than I do, but thinking about how what can be done, I've been watching kind of a presentation yesterday about QAnon, where within, I don't know, 3 years that movement, which is horrible movement, has been gaining momentum in the United States to hundreds of thousands or even millions of people believing in this nonsense. And the way they go about is social media. So I guess that's the way of these days is using social media to access to get to people. And the other thing is perhaps using some of those short phrases, short quotes from Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha and so on about the people of the eye and so on, and making kind of a template or brochure or something that is easy to be shared in social media, so that people actually know about it, because I think most people don't have any clue about it. I mean, I grew up in Israel and I had zero. I lived in Haifa for 5 years. I knew zero about the Baha'i faith. I had to go all the way to British Columbia to find out that I missed so much. So yeah. And anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for this presentation. It was very.
And you know, Baha'u'llah says there's a set time for ye, O people. So your time wasn't ready, wasn't there yet. That's why you didn't see it. You saw it when he was ready for you to see it.
Yeah, I think it's also kept hidden from the Israeli people in some ways. There's some issues about that, which I'm trying to spread it now to my family. I'm letting them know. My cousin, I told her about it. She's like, whoa. So, you know, anyway, thank you so much. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I've been following Charlene's forum and you all guys, and in the last I don't know, half a year or so, and I just cannot believe that how people of dark skin survive all these horrible life. Where after half a year just taking it in, I'm feeling already exhausted and tired and wanting to have a quick solution to all that. So I feel all your pain.
Thank you.
That's capacity building, Amir.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Amir. We have Jessica and then Kevin. Janice.
Okay, I just wanted to share a story that I think I remember correctly. I heard it a while ago, but when Kaiser Barnes came back from Haifa, he addressed the Baha'i choir festival. Like the first one.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
No, you're garbly. That's better.
I'll try again, and if it's not working,
That's much better. That's much better.
Okay, fantastic. Kaiser Barnes came back from Haifa, and one of his first addresses was to the Baha'i Choir Festival some years back. And he told this story about music and how important it was in his life. And how when he was investigating the faith in Baltimore, I believe it was, that he would go to feast. And then after he would go and whoever was accompanying him, and he would have another feast, like their style. Because he didn't feel the first one. He didn't connect there. And so I just like long for the day when our spaces are such that lots of different kinds of people connect in them. Feel like it's home.
Yeah. Where are you, Jessica?
I live in Washington, D.C., Sue.
You what?
I'm in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Oh, okay. Okay. Do you know, oh gosh, all of a sudden I can't think of her name when I was going to ask. If I think of her name, I'll mention it. But.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a great story. Kevin?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm on my phone, so I apologize if this doesn't sound clear, but my take on the question of, and I should probably preface this by, now let me start over. It's been my experience that in the Baha'i faith, at least as long as I've been a Baha'i, Once I matriculated past being a teenager, I never saw white Baha'is befriending Black people. And the question always comes up, well, why can't this happen? And we all know why it's not happening. But nobody is actually looking in the mirror and saying, hey, what have I done to befriend somebody from this group? And I don't mean go out and convert, because that's always the discussion, right? How can we teach somebody to be a Baha'i? Well, we've been told repeatedly to live the life.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when it comes to the Black society or the Black people in America, there's this rush for conversion, not for getting to know people and being a friend. And the expectation that Black people are going to come to white people. For what? For what? There's no reason why any Black person in this country needs to come into this faith for the reasons that we sit around and talk about. All these things are in the writing why people should come. And we see some Black people become involved and then they drift away. And it's because they have a community already that is supportive, that endears them, that loves them, that understands them, that has shared this struggle, that doesn't have to sit back and listen to excuses. So why would you leave that? And it's comfortable too. Why would you leave that to go into a community where you are always being asked, how do we connect to Black people? How do we do this? And you as a Black person can just sit back and say, well, why don't you see this? Why? And every week it's the same thing. And so that's one area. The other area is that, and I'm sorry if this sounds like militant, because that's not my point. My point is really just to, from my perspective, this is what I see. I see people become Baha'is who are white, or who have that white mindset. And there's Black people who have that white mindset too. But they become Baha'is and they continue with that mindset. It doesn't change. So you'll go into feast and you'll hear someone say, well, that's not the appropriate way to sit when you're saying a prayer. Well, it's little microaggressions like that tell someone you're not welcome. And there are some communities, whose events I will never go to, because I see this and I see the same people being hoisted to positions that allow this to continue happening. And so I think we as Baha'is really, really need to stop talking about we're Baha'is now and start doing. And part of that doing is going back when we have our assembly meetings and finding ways to change our own communities. In some communities, National has said, hey, we need to discuss these things as it pertains to racism. We've all seen these messages come down. And there are communities who won't even discuss it.
Yeah.
And the real sad part is we have people in these interracial marriages, and the Black individual can't discuss this within their own marriage because it's that visceral. And there's no help from the organizations and writings that have those answers. We could all solve this. This is not really an issue. But I'm talking right now because Milton asked that question. Milton, I love you, brother. He asked the one question that I was just thrilled to hear him ask that question. Why? Why is it this group is left out? And I think Milton knows the answer. I know Milton knows the answer. I mean, we've talked about this. But it's always a struggle. And I mean, it's just, for me, it's tough to hear it again. And it's tough to hear the same responses again. Now, it's not going to change what I do as a Baha'i. But at the same time, it reminds me of the degree of education we are at in our community in this country right now. And you know, that's my own perspective on this. I wanted to say this just because I know there are people who are much more eloquent and tactful than I am, and I applaud everyone for doing that. I grew up in a house with a parent who was run for the hills if she started talking. My mom. So you know, it is. At what point can we change our own language so it is more direct to addressing these issues as opposed to putting a soft edge on them?
Right.
And I'll shut up. Thank you for allowing me to put my 1 cent in. I appreciate it.
What was your name again?
I'm Kevin. I'm Kevin Genus.
Kevin, thank you so much for all of what you shared. What's so powerful for me is that you and Milton are Black men in the faith. We have so few of you, and struggling with it, but still staying with it. Thank you. Just thank you.
Yeah.
We need you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely second that. I'd like to pick up on one aspect of what Kevin said, and then we have 2 other people, and that's Kitty and Carla. We've got the 3 Ks going. Oh, that's a bad joke. Those are the wrong Ks. Okay. Whoops. You know, I like to laugh, folks. I'm sorry, but I didn't think about it till after I'd said it. But coming back to Kevin's comment about, you know, friendship versus converting people. And for myself personally, I have always felt very strongly that the ways we typically go about or think about sharing the faith with people, inviting people into the faith, is not the way Abdu'l-Baha would do it. It's not. Abdu'l-Baha didn't say, let me tell you about my father. You know, he'd say, how are you? Are you happy? What can I do for you? He got to know people. He established real relationships with people. That's what friendships really are. And I think if we made that our business, to say, okay, I'm gonna really put myself out, go out of my way, whatever it is I need to do, really create a new relationship with someone. And by virtue of that relationship, they're gonna wanna know what's shining out of you. They're gonna wanna know what that is. The door opens itself that way. So I just wanted to say that about that.
Before we leave that, if you
Yeah.
don't, may I just share that last slide again? About
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
It fits right in with what we're talking about.
Great.
And this is the this is under community building. We want to form true and effective relationships.
Right.
We want to become real friends, listening to the members of the community regarding their needs, ensuring they become the real protagonists, encouraging creativity, thought, imagination, consultation, independent investigation of their own reality, rather than what we perceive it to be. Staying as much as possible in the background, but helping them as they figure it out. having fun and enthusiasm. And to me, that's such a big thing. You have fun doing this.
Yeah.
Are you encouraging authentic conversations around racism and how it is impacting their community? And if you are white, how much time do you really spend listening? I know that one of the things that we are so about gotta get the numbers, that we don't understand that if you build these relationships, the numbers that are going to come much more quickly than you think.
Then it's organic. Yeah. Then it's organic.
That is organic.
Then it is organic at that point. Definitely. And, you know, this whole, part of the approach, and I think this is a wonderful example of white culture, the colonial mindset, you know, is let me come and tell you, let me come and give you, you need what I have. You know, that's white dominance.
That's white
And when you approach the faith that way, sharing the faith that way, you're just perpetuating. And it's like Kevin said, why do I need to go there? You don't have any other people there that look like me. And I come in and no one's friendly to me, you know, people stare at me, no one, you know, says, hi, how are you doing? You know, blah, 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 you know, and so on. Or I'm looked askance because, you know, I want to clap my hands or whatever, you know, or something like that. So, yeah, it's amazing how insidious this, the colonial mindset or the colonist mindset and white dominance are, even in our own culture. And it's exactly what Rahia Kanoum pointed out. That was such an excellent quote that you shared on that, Sue. So it's something we have to make ourselves really mindful of, you know, make ourselves mindful of it. And if you get to the friendship, it's like, okay, I have to be a real person with somebody. I've got to be a real person with someone. I've got to see the God in them. And and here's where the problem comes. Maybe they'll see who I really am. Maybe I don't like who I really am. Right? You know, maybe I don't love myself enough, or maybe I don't think I'm good enough, or what all these other things are that at a interpersonal level hold you back from reaching out. Be bold, have courage. It only hurt a second if it does. All right, okay, let me get off my little thing here. Kitty's been patiently waiting. Kitty and then Carla.
I just want to recommend this book, The Anvil of the Spirit by Morris Taylor. I wrote it in the chat also. And you can tell that I have been studying it. And our whole community actually studied it because this is a book for Baha'is about how to make feasts and their whole community more welcoming to everyone. And I just think it's wonderful.
Is there something
Sorry?
Is there something specific, an example you'd like to share maybe with us?
Oh, wow.
Choose, huh?
He talks about many things, but about becoming real friends, about finding out what people need and helping them, serving them, about listening to them, about not having this mindset that was talked about earlier, that this is the way we do it here. This is the way we've done it for 40 years and it's worked great. And you are welcome as long as you fit into what we have already going on. If instead we can say, we are half-baked, we welcome your contribution, and every person who comes changes the format. And if everybody is sitting still and one person starts clapping and moving, yay, you know, come on, we have to be open to embracing everyone.
Thank you, Kitty. What community are you in?
Can you share that book again?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called The Anvil of the Spirit by Morris Taylor. And I put it in the chat also.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That'll be included with everything else you're going to get from the talk tonight as well. So all references get pushed out to everybody as well. Thank you, Kitty. Carla, Miss Carla. Are you still here, Miss Carla? Yes, she's here. Carla, can you come off mute? She's working 2 devices, I know.
You talking about Connie or Carla?
Carla with a K.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you asked. Carla. She must have stepped away. Okay. So while we're waiting to give her a chance to come back.
May I ask the question?
Yes, go right ahead, Connie.
Well, this is the first time that I have listened to you, this program. Will I get all these things that you're going to give?
If I have your email address and city and state, you most certainly will.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Okay, do you know how to put things in the chat?
No, and
Okay.
I don't even see the word chat. But first of all, I want to compliment Sue.
Mm-hmm.
I have renewed respect for you now, Sue. I really do. I really do.
I'm glad
I mean, you ran it down. I at first I thought I was going to do my little picturing thing, and I had to stop and listen to you. And you know, and so many of these things I know, but you had it in such an order that it made you want to just keep going and keep going. And you really did your research on this. Really, you did. And you answered a question for me. And I hope this doesn't sound negative, something that I got in a discussion that wasn't too pleasant with the Baha'i about what Abdul Baha said, that she told me that as a Black person, I should be grateful to white people because they fought and died for us. And I said, who told you such a thing? And she said, Abdul Baha. And I could not believe that. I'm not going to tell you all the things I said, but you answered my question tonight, Sue. So that's why I haven't said anything.
Glad to see you here too.
And that it really hurt me. And he did say it. And because other people who are not Baha'is know about this before I did, you know, but I would not have known this as another Baha'i. I guess she was trying to shut me up when I was talking about America, and she was saying it's so great and blah, blah, blah. Well, and I had certain things to say, but Abdul Baha did say that. But now I look at it differently now. He said that then. Just because someone is a leader of something doesn't mean they know everything. Because when you said how Africans, we had all this organization and how we were, the things that Africans did. And then to say that if the white man hadn't fought and died for us in the Civil War, we would be like the Africans over there now. And that was insulting. But the way you presented it, we were a great race from the get-go. So thank you. So that's why I didn't say anything.
Thank you.
And now will you help me with the chat so you'll get my email?
Yes, Laura just put in the chat that she's going to make sure I get your email information, Miss Connie. So we've got you covered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming and being with us tonight and sharing that conversation with us. Those do happen more often than not.
Yes.
And it's not being necessarily negative. We need to be real in these spaces, you know, honest, truthful, humble, and
Well,
take our
then,
knowledge and move it into action.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, just your city and state, Laura. Thank you. Okay, Hoda has her hand up now. Hi, Hoda.
Hello, aloha. Thank you so much for hosting the most wonderful, wonderful presentation by Miss Subalu. My heart is still pounding, and I was so moved. Her heart was so inspired, and the research and just she must have been inspired from the invisible world because of the words that and how she conveyed this. Thank you so much for sharing. I was also moved when I heard Kevin say the truth. And I was prompted to ask myself this question. And I wonder if there is an answer for this particular question. And that is, we must do better. This is sad. We, as a Baha'i community, and I'm Iranian American, and I take personal responsibility for the work that's been given to me as a member of the Baha'i faith and being a Baha'i. There's so much work that I must do to remove this inherent subconscious feeling of superiority that I've inherited from actually two nations, both Iran as well as the United States. But my thought is that there is, after Kevin said what he said, is the Baha'i racial divide just as wide as America's racial divide? And if it is so, because the Baha'is, we do have the remedy. This whole revelation of Baha'u'llah has been given to us for that very reason, to close this divide and bring us from otherness to oneness. And the outer world, the social reality, and the rest of America doesn't have it. So I just feel it's a disgrace, and it really hurts the heart of Baha'is of African descent, native indigenous, the historical populations of the United States that the Universal House of Justice speaks about. So I just wanted to also want to make sure that his voice and his call is, I heard you, and I will make sure personally that I will speak up in my spaces that I have access to. This is my work. I'm supposed to be making the supreme effort. And I just think, because we create these problems, we create the divisions, and we are the ones who turn our heart away from justice. We are the ones who minimize and deny and leave and silent, and we, in the name of wanting to have unity. And this is not right. And we should just really try and do what Sadie told us to do at the National Convention over 100 years ago, and create a community that is much more loving, encouraging, supportive to people of African descent, and centers them. Thank you.
You're on mute, Sue.
I just said thank you, Hoda.
Yes, thank you. You know, you mentioned unity, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It's come up a couple of times, and I'll just throw this out. Again, it's just my own reflections and whatnot. But you know what? You can't have unity if everyone agrees, if everyone's the same. You do not have unity. You simply have sameness. Why would we even have consultation? We wouldn't need consultation if we all thought and felt and looked and acted the same. We wouldn't need it. But yet we have it. It's one of the greatest gifts of the faith, you know, for the functioning of a new world, community. So why do we have that? Because we have diversity. So unity comes from the coming together of diverse elements. That is what creates unity. It is not unity to say, no, this is the only way, or, this is the one way, that kind of thing. So just a thought on that.
Good one.
Just a thought. Anyone else here? Okay, we're at 11:15. We often go to 10:30 or so. Want to see if there are any other comments or questions. Now, sometimes we stay later. I think tonight we're going to try and not do that. But anyone who has not had an opportunity to speak, to share a thought, an observation. Parva. Okay, Parva. Go ahead. Great.
I usually wait. I try to even keep my mouth shut, and then I can't take it.
Okay, I've got 2 other people behind you, so they've all jumped up now.
Yeah, and
Go
then
ahead, Parva.
you encouraged me in the last comment you made, because I was thinking, if you're open to new topics, this is a great topic to have. People are different in their approaches to where they're comfortable. Some people are more comfortable with people that look like them, which is really actually a standard that's been very much set by colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get over it to some. I mean, not to say Black people shouldn't get together, Persians shouldn't get together, but we need to learn what it means to mix and mingle.
Mm-hmm.
That is standards being pushed on us for centuries. And in the message of Universal House of Justice, July 22nd last year, one of the things they're specifically mentioned is that Baha'is should have their own standards. We should not bring the outside standards within the community. We need to think creatively. And that's extremely important. I think that's one of them we should work on. And honestly, that's kind of even funny to me, because I never thought of it that way. Like I don't necessarily care about, it's not like I'm going somewhere and I'm thinking I'm not comfortable because people don't exactly look like me. Why do they have to look like me?
Right.
But that's something that I constantly hear. And it's very, I would say, American. It's very, because this whole identity politics is very much started with the start of the US. And this is the way this country even was built on. I imagine if somebody with of course, somebody who's more conversant in the history of the country can come and talk about it, and shed more light on it, and we can have a better understanding about it. So I'm so glad you mentioned it. Yes, we are talking about unity and diversity in the Baha'i faith. But Abdul Baha, or even the Baha'i faith, doesn't say unity and diversity necessarily means race.
Mm-hmm.
All sort of different kind of personalities we have, like every single one of them are necessary for the society to function. Some of those personalities, probably people are more drawn to people who look like them. Some of them are people, for whatever reason, more adventurous in a way, or attracted. You've heard all of this, like some people are like functioning better with their own kind, the others are attracted to the opposite. That's very true. So in the concept of race, that could come into play as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you just mentioned that it really hit the spot. One more is, the other one was the slide that Sue showed from and had this view of the quotations from Elizabeth Allen, the scholar.
Mm-hmm.
About whiteness. And I think that's also would be an interesting topic if you want to discuss it. And the fact that how the concept of whiteness even evolved in the US. If you know, like from the beginning, it was more like British who was considered to be white, not even Irish, Scottish, German, Swedish, any of those. They were all like lower class. It took, I mean, it has evolved throughout years and years. And
Yes,
has
it has.
always been the matter of who's included, who has the power. That's basically all it. So learning about that would be also quite actually, I can't say inspiring, but like illuminating. And more we learn about it, more we talk about it, more we are going to be comfortable with the concept. And yes, I agree with Kevin is mentioning why. Yes, why are we still talking? To me, we are coming here to get inspiration, to get some level of, I don't know, I'm glad to hear this because it makes me feel sane. Because like I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Or I mean, of course, I cannot understand the extent of your pain, but I mean, I can at least try to understand it and to some extent relate to it. And that's how I think that's also part of a connection too, you know.
Thank you, Parva. Thank you very much. Our very, very first presentation on the series was called How White Got Made. How White Got Made. I didn't record it, I did it. But that was exactly where we started. That was kind of like ground zero. We need to understand where these social constructs came from in the first place, particularly in this country, because it has shaped so much the discourse and the reactions both. So just share that with you. But there's you know a bit about it because you've indicated that very well. You're pretty knowledgeable. But yeah, and thank you for those other suggestions of other topics. Sue, were you going to say something there?
Oh, no, just that it's a fascinating story.
It is, isn't
one
it?
that makes you scratch your head, but
it is.
People really absorbed it so easily.
I know, and it just, for me, it finally answered that question. Why are people going against their own self-interests, right? That explains that. If you've ever had that question as well, it kind of answers that too. Okay, I saw two other hands go up, and I don't know if they were applause hands or you wanted to speak. So Jan.
Yes, I want to. This is the first time I have come to your event here. Lajamai is a dear friend of mine and invited me tonight. So
great.
I'm excited to be here. And I'll say I'm having many reactions, actually. I just celebrated my 50th year as a Baha'i, which means I've seen a lot of development in communities over a lot of years. And I feel like this is a critical time that we're having these discussions. And honestly, I've never seen more honest discussions than what we've been having in the Baha'i community across the nation, and especially with all this Zoom and stuff. It's really, it's exciting. It is creating opportunities for us. And I personally have raised biracial children in the faith. And it's been tough at times, different communities that were not as nurturing. But one of the things I did some travel teaching with Janabi Caldwell, who was a wonderful travel teacher and personage in the faith. And he did a time when he went travel, well, he went pioneering to the Aleutian Islands, and he didn't really know anything about the Aleut people there. And he thought, oh my gosh, I can just get through this quickly because there were only 50 homes and they had such a strong culture. But he got a telegram from Shoghi Effendi, who said, when you know them, when you really know them, and when they know you, then little by little, slowly teach the faith. And I have lived by those words for a long time, because I feel like that's even the answer to Milton's question as well. There's just not a Baha'i presence in the hood. And that kind of, I mean, it means we don't know. It means we don't understand cultures. And there's been a lot of influences over the years in different communities that I have been in. I lived in more of a Native American in Colorado, and lived with La Jamaya in sort of a Blacker community of Houston. And it's just been interesting to see how racial development is changing. And even though we are so far away from anything that we really will be and need to be, we still have come a long ways. So people should be encouraged and dedicated to continue to make this change happen. And I also want to say to white people on here, don't ask, what can I do? I find that insulting. And as a Baha'i, we need to figure out what we need to do. We don't need to have anybody tell us. I think that that's even a white attitude, white supremacy attitude of, we've always told you, okay, now you get to tell us. No, that also defeats the purpose. So there you go. I just wanted to share that. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the talk. I enjoyed the talk very much, Sue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan, for your comments.
Thank you. We got some truth being laid out here tonight, folks. Thank you for that 50-year perspective, Jan. Whoa, yes, yes, yes. These are the kinds of conversations we need to have. We listen, we hear, we see each other. We start to understand each other. You know, your heart might get going faster. Mine did. Brian's like, whoo, that's coming here, you know, and that's okay. That's all right. That's part of us being community. That's part of us being community, because we still love each other anyway, and maybe even more so. La Jamaya, I thought I saw your hand up. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring to our attention, it's very likely that many of the people who are on this call this evening are members of local spiritual assemblies.
Mm-hmm.
In the month of January, we received a message from our National Spiritual Assembly, January 26, advising us of a webinar series that had been created, that had been promised to us back in 2020. And now this webinar series has been developed by the Office of Public Affairs.
Yes.
And it's not a quick remedy. It has been given to us so that our institution of the local spiritual assembly can mature, can develop. And of course, we're individuals making up that institution, so we have to grow. And that's, to me, that's what's been happening throughout the United States when we think about all of the various Zooms that people have been participating in, the conversations that have been happening, the Wilmette Institute classes that people have been participating in, one's own personal research and growing understanding. But our National Spiritual Assembly is also in the process of maturing. So we should be following that example in our local institutions. So if you're a member of a local spiritual assembly, I believe it is our responsibility to make sure that our assemblies follow through and participate in this webinar. I mean, it's not just an email that should be, oh, okay, we read it and we've discarded it. No, we need to do it. And it means setting aside time when, as a group, you come together and you study this. And it's not over in that one setting, because there's so many resources that were included in that communication to continue the process of growth. The date of that email is January 26. If your assembly has not by now set a time to do this study together, go back to that email and make sure it happens at your next LSA meeting. Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much, La Jamaya. And I have a link to that. I will also include that in the resources again that are going out to everyone. So even if you're not in an assembly, maybe you're in a group or an isolated believer, it's still available to you as well. But yeah, that's a very important message. Thank you. And on two fronts, not just the resource itself, but also reminding us that our National Spiritual Assembly is also maturing and evolving as we are at the local level as well. Okay. We have 3 minutes before it's 10:30. The last time I was here, it was 1 minute before 1 a.m. after the devotional potlatch. Oh God, it was so great, folks. But we're not going that long tonight. So this is last call. For any other comments?
I am so happy to hear that, Sherilyn.
Yes.
I enjoy things like this, but I have a limit. Barbara can tell you.
Yes, we all have
stays on, and I just, okay, I'm done.
Right. Yeah, we only ask, oh, Nason wants to say something. Yes, please, Nason. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on something that was said earlier about, because I heard it one way and Jill heard another way, and I was like, you know what, I just want to speak on this for just a second. Because the comment made about Al-Baha, who said that Blacks should become grateful to whites, I want to just looking at that quote for just a second, was in direct relation to the ending of slavery. He spoke to a Black crowd and a white crowd. He spoke at Howard University, he said that, and then in New Jersey. And in speaking to people, he said, with all of these people who gave their lives and fought for the ending of slavery, and that slavery ended, we should be eternally grateful that slavery has ended, and that these people gave their lives and helped to bring about the ending of it. And then he compared to the lives and all of the continued oppression going on in Africa, and how much of the lives of Black people in Africa were being held back there. And I think that just keeping that in mind as we're going through it, that when someone gives a half of a explanation to somebody, to throw it in your face to say, oh yeah, you just be grateful to me, there's only half of the sentence there. There's the other half of it. And to give one direct quote, Al-Baha said, but I wish to say one thing, in order that the Blacks may become grateful to the whites and the whites become loving towards the Blacks. That's the sentence, right? It's a half and half. Like there's so much that is involved in this whole entire process, that all goes hand in hand. And in order to overcome the challenges in this society, it's not simple, and it involves work by everybody. And the minute that we sit here and think that all of my work is done and I can sit back and watch everyone else accomplish everything, I'm missing out. I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, thank you, Nason, very much. I'm really glad that you brought that up. Carla, are you back? Miss Carla? I see her on here, but
Could I say something since Miss Carla isn't there?
Yes, go ahead, Miss Connie.
I think he was correcting me if I'm not mistaken, but thank you anyway. But he's heard it his way and I heard it my way. And he didn't say it completely the way it is written either. This is the way some people do. And so if he should have said the whole thing, read the whole paragraph or the whole writing. And that's just he just kind of, as I say, whitewashed. May I ask if this gentleman is Caucasian or is he African American?
Are you speaking of Nason, the fellow that just spoke?
Yes.
Nason? You're on mute.
I am African American. I can. We'll add in here. Hi.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I mean that's the whole quote. I mean, would you like me to read the whole quote that was there? I mean, there's 3 different quotes that relate to the whole entire thing from 3 different talks.
Yeah, would you?
Sure.
If it's all right. I know the time is late, but I'm an old lady and I'm retired, so I have nothing else to do. And I'm enjoying this website.
What is the timeline here?
Okay, yeah, it's 10:32.
But he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. But like I say, in the Baha'i, everybody wants to say things. They say things and they gloss over things. So everything is always said so sweetly. But just because you say everything so sweetly doesn't mean it's always that kind either.
Yeah, that's certainly very true, Miss Connie. That does happen. Nason, we can send you the quote, okay? And you'll get that with the email that you'll get as well to welcome you to the series. I see Amir has his hand up. Do you want to have the close? Oh, Parva and Amir, these are the last 2. But first, let me say this. We want to thank Sue. She has really, really given us so much. This has been so rich. And the quality of this discussion, I think, is one of the best ones we've had on this series. I really do. I think this is one of the most meaningful ones. I mean, they've all been good, you know, and things like that, but this one has reached a level of honesty and integrity, and that's owed to those of you here as well, because of your willingness to speak your truth, to share, and to listen. And that has been so incredibly important. And I want you all to know that I hope when you leave here, or when you are here, and you look at this gallery, we are the serried lines. We are the serried lines right here. Look at all the rows of us here in this Zoom, or the next one, or the next one, or the other one you were at earlier today. We are the serried lines. And but Sue has given us a true gift. I'm going to get that recording out so fast you guys won't believe it. You just won't believe it. So I really can't thank you enough, Sue.
You're more than welcome.
For what you put together for us, the breadth of it, the depth of it. It was just so on the money on every single point. And I have to ask you to come back again. And yes, plan on it, whatever you want. Go deeper into an aspect.
I want to go deeper.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. We'll all go deeper with you. Yes, please. I sincerely mean that. And It's not something I offer, in public ever usually. So yeah, open house for you anytime. Just say when. Let's get you in the calendar. But so my
Yes,
deepest
Lord,
thanks.
let's do it.
My deepest thanks from all of us. Okay, so having said that, I want to let Sue leave, because she needs to go. But I understand Parva and Amir have something that they would also like to share, and those will be the last two comments. And then Nason has the button, and Nason is going to swoosh us out of here right after Amir's comments. I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for coming, and Nason's going to hit the button, and we're swooshed. So, so who was first, Amir or Parva?
Amir.
Parva?
Amir.
Amir. Okay, Amir.
Thank you. I echo everything you just said. It was really a very educational presentation, and it's coming to the end of the Black History month, so that that presentation was also timely on that front. And as part of my, I just want to share that as part of my education this month, I watched a movie called Harriet. I don't know if you know this, but this was an amazing movie about resilience. I think about the resilience of black slave in America, how they
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman, yeah, amazing. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Amir. Parva, you have the last word.
Yeah, doesn't happen much. Okay, so I just wanted to mention first, in the Baha'i faith, we do have the right to interpret the writings of the Baha'i, of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, as long as it's our own. We cannot it's not going to be the interpretation that's provided, like basically does not represent the Baha'i faith's opinion about the matter, but we are free to do the interpretation. So it is totally understandable if people are understanding different quotation in different contexts and whatever it speaks to them. So in that context, so in that sense, Connie or Nisan or anybody, whenever they're hearing that comment, that quotation from Abdul Baha, everybody, I mean, they could be right based on their own experiences, based on their understanding of it. Interestingly, when I heard this passage first time, it was in the Howard University back in 2004 or 5. In the they used to have, I don't know if they still have it or not, the annual event of when the Abdul Baha actually came to this area and had that. So there was this African American gentleman who mentioned it. That was the very first time I heard it, and it was interesting to me. But to me, it also spoke as to some other principles of the Baha'i faith, that we are always supposed to stand up for each other. So to me, it basically means, yes, white people should have been stood up for black people. And yes, I need to understand that they did it for I mean, if I'm black, if they stood up for me. The same as a woman, some of my rights are being denied, and there's a man who's standing up for me. I'm very going to be happy about it. At the same time, that means that man has come to the level of maturity to stand up for somebody else's rights. The same as when Baha'u'llah, in fact, in one of the tablets, he mentions the word at the time is reached the level of maturity. We know the word is mature when there is no more, basically, apparently, if any country attacks a third country, another country, other countries are standing up for the country that's been attacked. So kind of like throughout writings, we are being constantly encouraged to stand up for each other, for the other persons or the underdogs' rights, for the ones who are being oppressed. So the same, in that context, I don't find anything honestly insulting. about,
Thank
it's
you,
not like
Barbara.
about black people be happy, be thankful to white people thing. It's about, hey, listen, there were some group of white people who were mature enough to stand up for the right of blacks. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. I mean, always oppression ends when the oppressed stand up for himself or herself. And some groups, some people, some folks from the oppressive group are coming to this side and help. And which is exactly what happened during the Civil War and got to that point.
Thank you, Parva. Sue?
Yeah, you know, I think that, of course, when we are talking about Abdu'l-Baha and Abdu'l-Baha's words, we know that Abdu'l-Baha is infallible in the things that he says. So then it's a matter of how can I take this in based upon where I'm at spiritually? And I avoid talking about those particular statements that bother me because I may not yet fully understand. I'm living in 2020. He talked about these things in 1912, and that doesn't mean that whatever he said doesn't apply all the way through the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. But if I don't understand it, I'm not going to try to explain it to someone else. And that applies too with what he said about blacks being, that blacks should be to the best of their ability to get rid of suspicion. When I first read that, it was like, what? But with further understanding, with further spiritual growth, I came to understand that, yes, it makes sense that my counter to what whites have to do is that I need to work on becoming less suspicious. Same thing when he says something about it doesn't matter if you're white or black, if your heart is pure, if a black man's heart is pure, if a black man is pure, his heart is white. That still is something that and so I know it's me, it's not Abdu'l-Baha. And so I have to work on me and my understanding. And so I just leave it alone until I can get to a place where I can take it in. And so having a discussion in spaces like this about something like that, I think is counterproductive to anything, because like Parva said, we all have the way in which we are taking it in, and we are all having to each do or respond to it in the way we respond to it. Rather than interpretation, I say this is my understanding, so that there's no confusion with anyone else about what I'm doing. So I just wanted to say that as a global kind of thing, because anything that any of the central figures say about anything can be a problem for somebody until their spiritual development gets to a point where they can either continue to leave it or be ready to take it in. And there's so much else he says that's great, that's worth taking in. I'm not going to bother with those things that I can't take in right now.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. And thank you to Parva and everyone else has contributed to this discussion. Yeah, those kinds of conversations are difficult. We do know that sometimes people use the writings as a weapon. But you know, none of us were there. So yeah, so you have to really just say, okay, this is how I understand this, and make your own assessment about, ask that person, what was your intention? You know, did I misunderstand the way you presented that to me? You know, you can actually have a conversation about it that might be helpful. But anyway, that's beyond the scope of our series, I'm afraid. So Nason is going to take us out. Carla, I called you many times. I couldn't get you on. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, friends. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, let me just tell you the topic real quick.
Hey, Charlene, I apologize, my dear. I had to take a call.
Okay, Carla,
So,
we're getting ready to sign off now, sweetie.
so it's okay. No worries. I was just wanted to let you know. That's all.
Okay, okay. Did you want to get a quick question or comment in? Real quick one.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good to have you here and good to hear your voice. Okay, so next, March 13th is our next one, and it's the spiritual impact of health disparities in minorities communities by Melinda Cecil. She's a PhD, RDN, and an LDN, and she'll be addressing us and talking about those topics, and we'll have more things coming up after that that are in the schedule. So thank you so much, friends. Really appreciate all of you being here. Let's continue to have these conversations and you know, grow and learn from them and be enriched by them. Thank you. It was just a wonderful evening for all of your contributions. And thank you again, Sue St. Clair. Love you all.
Thank you.
Take us out.
Aloha. Thank you. Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Adrian.
Happy Yamiha.
Ah, there
Yes,
she is.
happy
Hey,
Yamiha.
Robbie. Yes, happy Yamiha. There you are. Okay, thank you.